What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Mix. I'm your host, Anthony Douglas. Today's guest, I have my father, actually. Yes, I do. His name is Andre Douglas. Welcome, everyone. All right. All right. You know, we don't have an actual audience here because, no one really listens to the podcast like that. But anyways, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Doing good? Cool. Hey, I want to start out from the beginning. Okay. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump right back. So tell us a little bit about you.
My name's Andre Douglas, and I'm Anthony and Anthony's father, and not too much. At least I don't look at it like that.
Okay. Let's talk about Anthony's father a little bit. So where did Anthony's father come from? Where did you come from originally?
I come from Sacramento, California.
Sacramento?
The place we're in now. I lived in Colorado for a little while, and Denver. Where your mom from?
Interesting.
Yes. She's born in Denver, and I lived there a little bit, and back to Cali.
Back to Cali. Okay, let's go even further back. Let's peel this onion back. All right, so you're born and raised in California.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it like growing up in California at that time as a kid?
Very different.
Very different. What are some of the differences in growing up back then?
Oh, just about everything. Crime rate, the way people socialize now, and not only that, you can you leave your doors open, and you could leave your doors open. And when I was a kid, I used to go to school. Without any parents. I used to walk to school. And now you can't do that as much. So a lot have changed, and a lot of the music changed. There were no rap, none of that, But a lot's changed.
A lot has changed, it seems, yeah. So so walking to school, your parents never took you to school at all?
Oh,
No, not
once
one
in a
time?
while, yeah, once in a while. But usually we did it. I did it myself.
Was it like it had to rain for you guys to get a ride or something?
No, it was fun. Me and my friends would go. We'd walk to school,
Okay.
And I'm like 10 years old, 5 to about 10. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool.
Different.
And when you were coming up, I took you guys to school.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not letting none of my kids go to school. I don't want to be, I just don't want to come home and, your kid's gone,
Yeah.
I make sure you're in that school.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I was very cautious of that. It was almost like a religion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that makes you a good father.
Oh, yeah. Even when you guys get out the car in the parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
I hold you guys' hands, make sure watch out.
Yeah.
Car could be speeding through the parking lot here. So, yeah.
Wow. So, like, did anything bad happen when you're walking to school, or did a lot of what sort of things happen which you would say that you wish you had a ride?
I didn't have any bad experiences.
No bad experiences?
No.
Nothing crazy you've
We
seen?
we just be walking and talking,
Mm-hmm.
about music and stuff, stuff like that. And I didn't have there were nobody to try to pick us up, and stuff like that. We didn't have any of that.
Interesting.
They had it back then like they have it now, but it's just a lot more now,
Yeah.
It's,
Wow. So tell me a little bit about your background. Like, how was your family growing up, and what role did that play in the character that you are today?
it was good.
It was good.
We had the bad parts, and my mom, she's a good person. She can get a temper.
Mm.
She let you know real quick. And back then, you can get spanked in the public. Can't do that now.
Oh man.
You can't do that now.
Oh man.
And It was almost glamorized back then. Nobody thought anything. But yeah, now you can't do it. You get get arrested. Yeah.
Have you ever got whooped in public before?
Oh yes, yes.
Tell me about
I've
that.
got smacked in the face in public. And it straightened me up. I was always a good kid, but every now and then, being a kid, you get out of line. Every now and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it's
So what are some of the things that you do, like, as far as like what you do? It doesn't have to be for money or whatever, but what are some of the things that you do outside, like as far as like a hobby or passion? What do you do exactly? I know the answer to this, but for people who don't know.
yeah. I bet you do.
Yeah.
I like doing a lot of art stuff.
Art stuff.
Yeah, art, and I've started back working on the treehouse. Yeah, I haven't worked on that for at least 5 years.
Okay. So you made a tree house and you've always been into art. Where did your passion from art come from?
It comes from I was born with it. My natal chart talks about that, and I remember as a kid I won an art contest. I would draw the faces, and it would look real. It would look human, and yeah. When Nixon was president, I drew him. It looked real. And, nobody liked Nixon back then because, what went on. And, yeah, it looked real. It's like staring right in front of you. And I drew Lincoln. People dig that. It's a 5-foot picture, big, 5 foot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they're looking right at you. The pierced eyes. It's the sketches. And so, yeah. And then I would draw cathedrals. It's like you can walk into the cathedrals. You feel like you're in the picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did someone teach you, or did you just
No one
learn on
taught
your
me.
own?
And that's funny because when I got into Zodiac, it described, I'm talking the real Zodiac with the natal chart, the mathematicals and all that, and all the planets that goes to work. This is all from God. And it talks specifically about that. Other stuff as well, but it gets deep into that. It says you like that. You can draw human faces. You Phoenician. You like drawing columns and stuff like that. Phoenician stuff because of your natal chart. And I'm like, wow, that definitely is me.
Wow.
It talked about my background growing up. Talked about my family. Talked about your mom, how we would meet. All exact to a T. Where we would meet at.
Wow.
Her talk about her dad. Talked about you guys. So yeah, it's that's deep.
Wow. So moving forward to the treehouse. When did you start working on the treehouse at the house?
2003.
Okay, 2003.
Summer of 2003.
Okay, and you're still working on it today,
Yeah.
2021. I mean, what new additions have you added to it that weren't there in 2003?
The deck.
The deck.
Also.
A deck around the treehouse.
Yes. Well, there was a lot that wasn't there. And just over time, I just started adding the window. There's a large window up top. And I used a chainsaw instead of a circular saw. So I chainsaw. I told your mom it looks dark. She says, oh, no, it looks good. I can't see much. So I put that big A-frame window up there. So, yeah, the light came through. And then and as time went by, I put a skylight up there that you can see through. Now you can see the moon up there. And then as time went by more, I started cutting the windows out and putting in windows. And then I built a deck on the back.
So where did this idea for a treehouse come from?
Your mom.
So she recommended you make a treehouse,
Yeah.
or she mentioned it, and then you just went to work on it?
You can thank her for it.
So what did you make the treehouse out of? Where'd you find the stuff for it?
Oh, Home Depot.
Home Depot?
And then the mind went to work. My mind started picturing it. It started off. The first one is.
Didn't you use pallet wood as well? Like
Oh
pallets?
yeah. That
Pallets?
No, that comes much later.
That's for a different part of the treehouse, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The first treehouse was a little one, about maybe 3 foot by 3 foot. It's just for a little kid to go in. It's like a little little bitty house. But I didn't like that much. I want something where everyone can get in. Your mom like, yeah, make it for everybody. So the thing about it is, it got much larger. Oh yeah, it got much larger. It went from a little box. It was like a box, maybe about 2 foot by 2 foot, and there's pictures of it. And I just kept making it bigger. And then the deck in 2014, I started working on the deck. But it started in 2003. The first one was like 2001. And I scrapped that. The little box. It's like a little bitty box where only 2 kids can go in, or maybe 1. It's just real small, like a doghouse, a doghouse with dormers on it.
Okay.
And then 2003 comes. I started making it big now. And this time it's on to the tree. And it's big compared to that other one. And
The one in the photo, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was a different
that
one.
That was little. I couldn't even get in that.
I remember that.
That's like a little doghouse.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
You remember it now.
Yeah. No.
Man, you were little then, 2003.
I totally remember it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were 7. You were 7 because you haven't turned 8 yet. This was during the summer.
Wow.
And but yeah, so I made it big, and then I turned around making a deck. I started at 2014, maybe the end of 2014, but by 2015, I got it done now, and I made double French doors where it opens up. And then I made the Dutch door. I made a glass front door, which is a Dutch, and you can open it up, half and half. And then I made a deck. I was going to buy the doors, but you said you should make the doors at this place.
Okay.
Because they were too expensive. They're very expensive doors.
Yeah.
You said, Dad, you should make the door yourself. So I went on and made the door myself.
Who said that?
You.
I said that?
You said that at that place where we were going to get that door.
Oh, you know what? Because you're already making all the stuff. It just seemed like, why don't you make the door? Why are we looking for a door? It was at that building right over here. That building right down the street. I know what building you're talking about. They're still open too.
They're still open.
They got a whole bunch of stuff in there.
Yes,
it's kind of like a Home Depot a little bit.
Yes,
different type. That's crazy.
Yes.
So where'd you who taught you how to build all this stuff? Because that's just you don't have a builder's license or no nothing.
It come natural.
And
I my dad.
It was predisposed in your DNA.
Yeah, and my dad too. My dad, I gotta give him a lot of credit.
Okay, look, you gotta put this out there because you can't, everything that we do is a product of our environment, So like what you are and what you do, like you said, it was in your natal chart, but also something in your environment triggered you to be able to tap into these things.
That helps it.
Something, so you said your dad was in construction, and he was always building things, and you saw that. And
yes.
Did he teach you how to do these things?
Mm-hmm.
He did?
He did.
Wow. What did he teach you how to do?
Oh, I'm going to get to that in a minute. But I forgot about my grandfather.
Oh,
my grandfather. I'm going too far. I'm going back into
the ancestors are here today. They're talking. Yes.
My grandfather, he built a house.
Okay.
In Del Paso Heights. Back when it wasn't Del Paso Heights.
Oh,
back then, during World War II, Del Paso Heights looked like it just had trees and all of that. There's a new police station. There's a police station. It's not new, but it's new compared to the area.
Yeah.
And there was a picture, 1932. That's before World War II, and it was nothing out there. But then when you look at it, when my grandfather came out there in World War II. From the South, from Louisiana, it was all trees, mainly all trees. And Grant High looked brand new at the time. And the whole place was just totally different. All those trees, it's pretty. And he built a big house with 8 rooms and like about 3 dining rooms over there. He built that house. He built it nearly all by himself. So he was a good builder, and he was already much older at that time anyway. He was up there in age at that time.
Yeah.
And he was out doing, my grandma said when Grandpa was building that house, he was out doing those young guys that he had to help him with. He did it mainly all by himself, but Grandpa was really something. So I got it a lot from him. And then my dad, I remember my dad would start something, like when we added on to our mom's house. And he said, okay, Andre, you could do the rest now. Because he helps gets me started. And then I would finish the rest of it all the way through.
Wow. So he'd set you up.
Yes.
And you would just knock it all out.
Yeah, I'm doing about 90% of the work now. He'll start the first of it.
Smart.
With the ceiling, building the ceiling and the framing work. And then I would end it out all the way down to the carpet work, to the other parts of the walls, walling the other part of it where you can go out with the doors and all that stuff,
Yeah.
So I'm doing most of it, but he's the one he's like the trigger. He starts it off. And okay, Andre, you can finish up. You do the rest now. So, yeah.
That's but that also shows you great leadership too. Like he doesn't just try to do it all on his own. Like he distributes the work, especially since his age. He got up there in age.
Yeah.
But he didn't let that knowledge and that wisdom go to waste.
Yeah.
And so he distributed the work, so the work still got done.
Yeah.
In good fashion. No, that's really cool. I wish I could have met him, but
Oh, you would have loved him.
who knows? I would have been a builder, maybe.
Yes, yes.
Who knows? But I think we're all talented and special in our own ways, and we learn from different. We get our stuff from different places.
Yeah.
So that's where you got your training, really. I mean, from your grandfather, and also your dad.
Mm-hmm. They
That's
say in your
interesting.
natal chart, they says people ask you how you know how to do that, and you didn't even go to school for that. They say that, because they talk about that chart is what helps you. They said that chart is what helps you, and also in your past life you have already did all that before, so it comes natural for you.
Interesting.
Just like some people, other things come natural. It's like playing the piano. They say, oh, he plays like a great pianist.
Yeah, and some people can never just get it.
Exactly.
But some people just get it like that. They
Yes.
just pick it up, and it's like, they're naturally good
They're
at this
born
thing.
with that. It's natural.
Interesting. Yeah, so would you say that what drove you to, being a craftsman of all sorts, making houses, tree houses, working on cars, that's another thing too. Would you say that comes natural to you? Or are there other things also that you may not, that you're
definitely
still
comes
discovering? Is there anything new that you're like, oh, wow.
Well, computers.
Computers, you're learning on that?
I'm not too much on computers, but I want to find out, am I? Which I doubt, but you never know. You never know what you have in you.
You never know. Things are
'Cause
easier
some
nowadays.
people are
than
so
you think.
good at computers, it's like, wow. It's just natural at them, and they don't have to try hard.
Yeah.
And me, I have to, try more.
Yeah. No, I hear you, but I think learning technology at this day and age is easier in a sense because everything has kind of been through like the hard trials of trials and tribulations of learning a better way to do things.
Right. Automotives get more.
Yeah, you just put a thing in there. Sensors tell you all the information
Yes,
you need
but then-
inside the vehicle.
But then on top of that, you have to know how to use it. You could put a thing in there and it'll tell you, but how do you use it? See, automotive, they get more sophisticated as time goes by. And when I got my first car at 16, the old saying goes, the newer the car, the more sophisticated. And some things on the car is actually easier,
Yeah.
That's why mechanics have to go to school to every year to freshen up because all this new stuff is coming out, And
It's very
a lot of it's
interesting.
the same, and you know how a lot of it's the same, but it's those other things that you don't know, So,
Yeah.
it's very sophisticated.
Yeah, I say this during every single podcast. The only constant is change.
Yeah. Yeah.
You probably heard it before, Yeah, like you said, like when it comes to like working on cars, that's why you gotta, take that class and get re-educated I think like once a year or something like that. I don't know, it might be different. But anyways, it's like you gotta learn the new ways of doing new things, like, and I'm glad that's the case because imagine if for example, doctors that never got refreshed and they forgot how to like stitch up the heart correctly, one of the valves leading to the heart, and they don't even, you know what I mean? And they haven't done it for so long. And now they find themselves in a position where they're having to, stitch up a heart valve. And next thing you know, a patient dies on their table. Like that could easily be avoided, for example, with having a class, a good
Exactly.
refresher. And in the medical field, they do have that.
Mm-hmm.
They do. You have to. I think it's a yearly thing. I'm not too sure how they do it exactly, but they do have it where you have to get refreshed, and if you don't, you lose your license. And it's completely understandable because that could be a patient's life that you just, that you just, that you just lost, and so. And that's what we don't want. We don't move forward and make all the progress that we do just for us not to get refreshed on the basics. And that's the basics are just as important as making progress. You got to
That's
have those
right.
down before you move forward. Um, and I think it's interesting. Like it's funny some of the stuff that you talk about, like working on cars and tree houses. A lot of that stuff is lost art, if you ask me. Because there's people who are buying kit houses, literally, who are buying a house on the internet and they have it delivered straight to them and they just put the pieces together, kind of like a piece of IKEA
Nice.
furniture. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And it's great. I love it. You know what I mean? Someone like me who's not like a house builder like you, um, can learn some of the basics, but I also have some of the really sophisticated work already done
Yeah.
for me. And I just have to follow a set book of rules telling me what to use and how to use and where to place things. So I think, I think everything's moving along and making everyone a
Yeah.
little bit more on the same page. But like from the time that you came, building things and doing things with your hand and becoming creative
A lot
and
of
with your own
people were
mind.
in that then.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't as creative nowadays.
Yes.
People are going off trends and what other people are doing, but there's not a lot of original things going on, original ideas. And on top of that, people don't even stop to think about how their car's working,
Yes.
or what's that noise under the hood, and they just keep driving it until the thing falls apart, and then they have to spend more money because they didn't know what that small problem was at the time, which led to a bigger problem because they let it go on for too long. So I find it quite interesting that when it comes with you like auto mechanics and like working on houses and stuff, you've always been like on that. You already know what to fix. You're a great handyman, and do you feel as if everything that you've learned can also translate to something else that you've never indulged yourself into yet?
I always feel like that, but to actually get into it,
Tell me about that. What are some things that you've thought about that maybe you can indulge yourself in and maybe you can find yourself succeeding in that as well?
well,
We're pushing the
I
boundaries
want to
today.
make. I've been wanting to make trellises,
What is that?
trellis arch. Arch trellises. I've been wanting to do
Arch
that.
trellis.
Yeah, it's just
Trillages?
trellis,
Trellis?
trellis.
Arch trellis.
Yeah, not a straight one, but an arch one.
So what are those exactly?
It's like when you get married, you go under it. Did you see that round arch?
Oh, like, going
And you
underneath the
walk
arch.
right under it. I always thought those were very gorgeous. And I woke up one morning. I said, I don't know if I ever do it, but I'm thinking about doing that because I was going to buy one for my front yard, and it's hard to find the ones that you want. And then they're very expensive too. You may think
Yeah.
they're not. They cost quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm thinking about making one of those as soon as I can get other stuff out the way.
Hmm.
You know.
That could be a business too. If you business eyes it, I don't even think that's a word, but if you turn that into to something where you can make money off of it, you know, people for weddings, like home weddings and stuff like that, or weddings in general. You know, if you design it in a way where it's like, you know, oh, we gotta have that one piece, you know, because you know, like altar. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
where's the altar at? You know,
And you know what? And
good
yeah,
for
that's
images. It's something that you
right.
detail the way you want, make it look real good. You said you're Venetian with it, so you can
Yeah,
add some Venetian type artwork to it.
and that's helping people. It's like a win-win.
Yeah, have your
Uh,
own arch. You could,
art.
you know what I mean? Or you can even rent them out. Like, you know how people rent out chairs and stuff, tables and all that for weddings. You can rent out the whole arch too.
Exactly.
Wow.
And
You don't even have to keep on building them. You just make them the way that you want and just rent them out.
yeah.
Uh-oh.
And it
Maybe
says
we
about
should
it.
cut this part out because someone might start making this arch company. Who knows? This altar company. Who knows? Who knows? No, it's quite interesting, though. I mean, like, I know at the house, you made an altar, and it looks great. It looks great.
That,
And so
the one in the ballroom.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
made that ballroom.
yeah, yeah. And also the one outside.
Yes, yes.
The one outside is what I'm really referring to.
Yes. And I want to
'Cause
make
we
something
almost
in
got
the
married
front.
underneath that thing, but then we went with the whole venue thing.
One of your friends' dad say he if he get remarried, he want to get married under that.
Yeah.
He really likes it, and he's a quiet man. But when he's seen that, he's like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I want to get remarried under this." He was sitting under it one time, but yeah, and it helps others out too.
Yeah.
You know, my natal chart was talking about art and building, about your soul will never rest unless you do that. You're not supposed to work for anyone. You're supposed to do that. And when they say your soul is restless, what's it supposed to really be doing? I know that to a T because I do have that restless soul. And like I said, your soul will never rest unless you do that as a living. And it's right. You know, my natal chart is right about that.
So let's talk about natal charts. What got you into natal charts? For you guys who don't know, what is a natal chart?
It's your zodiac. Your zodiac sign. It's related to your zodiac sign. The round, that's the more sophisticated. You know, like when you read in the newspaper about your zodiac sign, that's only getting about, that's just the general about your personality. But it's a whole lot more to it. You have multi-layers of your personalities, your hidden gifts, your anger problems. If you have your anger, it tells you because everybody have a little anger. Everybody has the niceness. Everybody has the creative side. Everybody has the what's the word for it? But
Nice
anyway,
sign.
but it tells you everything about you. It tells your past, where you come from, and it just goes on and on. So, but my natal chart says it in all areas. It don't say it in one spot. It's saying it keeps going back to that about the art, the building, and all that stuff, artistic. Just the date, it says artistic to a stream, and that's without the Mars Pisces, and then that's supposed to be the highest up there, artistic, they say, you know. And so, yeah, it goes back to that. So I wish it said it about computers, you know.
Ah, you're funny.
Computer. Yeah.
You're funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not good on that computer stuff.
You can't
Sometimes I feel like I'm lost in time. I'm back in the 70s, the 80s, you know, with that, you know, early 90s, you know.
Tell me about the 70s and 80s. What were
And
those
early
times
90s,
like?
because that's still stuck at a time before all this computer stuff.
What was life then without, like, in the 70s?
Yeah,
What was it like in the 70s without the technology?
Oh,
that
easy
is?
living.
Easy living. Get
Yes.
very descriptive. Get detailed. What was the everyday like? You wake up in bed and then what? Let's go back in the past.
Oh yeah, I'm going way back.
What did it smell like? What did it look like? Where were you? What was your environment like when you woke up and rolled out of bed? Who was in the room? What'd you eat for breakfast? Let's talk about all that. Let's get in there. Come on.
Yeah. They had Cocoa Pops. That's what we ate for breakfast.
Okay.
And there was a lot of I remember it was a lot of barbecue back then. A lot of good barbecue. And they don't do that as much now. You go to the, you know, barbecue people. They used to have those big, giant barbecues, and you would smoke. They're huge. They're real big and round. And, yeah, your mom remembered that, too, because they Kansas, Texas, all around, and you would barbecue your meat in that. And I thought that was really something, and you don't see that. And I missed the televisions, the old consoles, which it started around the early 1950s when TV really started coming in. But it's because they didn't have it before in World War II. They didn't have it. They had radio. But the early 50s, TV's coming in now, and they had these big, bulky, old-fashioned consoles back then. And the consoles ran from there on up to about 1979. And but the consoles. And yeah, I remember the early 70s when they had those consoles, they still had that look, but they were like squared off. But it was so popular. In 79, I remember my mom got the last nice one in 79.
Wow.
It's fancy. But yeah, that's where your TV is in the middle, and you had your 8-track. You had your 8-track right here, and your record player over here, and the TV right here. And it had a big case where you open up and you set your records in there, and you just put them in there. And that was the 70s. Yeah. So that was really something. Then the 80s, they got out of that. They left that alone. 1980, you starting to get into more of the turntables now, stuff like that, And rap is still not too much in. It's there, but it's not too much. You still hearing the regular music, which was good in itself, But it was 1980 was still like the 70s still. And then 81, you start seeing some more changes now with the shag start coming out. But yeah, that's what it was like. It was nice. I don't want to go back, but you have those good memories,
Yeah.
It'd be nice if you can step back once in a while. I like today, but with the computers and stuff and all this and that, but it'd be really nice to step back into that time and then go forward,
Yeah. After those times have passed, the only thing you got are memories,
Yeah.
And you can only go based off of that.
But I heard some of the movie stars was talking about that too. They would like to go back and come back to the present. They say it'd be nice, and I'm like it too because they too have those good old memories, Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of your most high moments in let's talk about your whole life.
Christmas.
In general. What was the best time of your life that you've ever had? Ever.
Oh, your mom, number one. That tops anything.
Smart answer.
Yo, no, it's a true
but
answer.
this is your podcast today. So let's talk about your most high moment where you can go back and you think about that and it's unforgettable.
And you guys, all the kids, you guys, you guys, more than any kids, I think had the most fun growing up. You, Andrew, Andrea, you guys had the most fun, and we would take you guys everywhere.
We had the most fun, but what about you?
Oh, me too.
Your most high moment. Let's talk about before kids, and then we'll talk about with kids and mom and stuff. Let's talk about you in general before kids.
My high
and before
Okay, but my highest growing up was always Christmas.
Always Christmas.
Christmas, because my mom, right? She would make. And I don't know anyone that would stand up on their feet and cook all night. And we would have like 20, 30 different pies. She would have like about 10 or 11 apple pies, maybe 15 sweet potato pies. And then she had pumpkin. She had the pumpkin too, a lot of pumpkin. And then we had the peach, the peach pies with the lines across, real huge. I'm talking huge. And we would have these long tables that you don't see no more, these extra long tables, and they'd be lined up. And the turkeys, 3-4 turkeys, potatoes, and she would spend all night. And then sometime my older sister, Lula Mae, she would come in and take over. And she'd say, go to sleep, Mom. But that's the kind of stuff you would see. And then on top of that, we had the largest family, the first family in Sacramento, the first family. I think it was around 1850 or somewhere around there. And the first real black family. I'm talking large. the Brent family, the Turner's family, the Douglas families combined. And then in Louisiana, my dad, he had 22 brothers and sisters, 8 brothers, 14 sisters. Some say it was more than 22, but I'm just counting the one that he knows. His wife would have so many kids, my dad's wife. And
Wow.
yeah, that's a lot of years of having kids, 1909 on up.
No breaks at all.
No break.
Man.
Yes. And then me, I originally had 14. Originally. But that's what my dad had 2 others on the brothers and sisters. But yeah, the doctor told my mom that, you should get your tubes tied because you just having too many kids. And my mom, she agreed,
Wow.
Yeah, so, and I grew up with 8. Can you imagine growing up with 8? It's like you being grounded out.
That's still a lot, man.
And my natal chart talks about me having a lot of brothers and sisters, and that at times I was grounded out, and my mom was loving, but she was also rough. She made you do things by yourself. And she was like that to a T, and then I have a special relationship with her. But it's what it says, too, and that's very true.
Wow. So what do you think it was like for her? I mean, to have that many kids, I mean, and and to have your own kids, and to just have that experience, but thinking about your mom having way more than the kids you have.
She would say, I wish I didn't have all you kids. She would say that sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah, you know how when kids started arguing with each other? Because we had that at moments. You know how the sister, the
rivalry.
They would be like, "Oh, Dad likes Michelle more. Dad likes James more, or this and that." Kids are like that. They think and you guys too. You guys like it too. All the families go through that. Who's the number one? Who like what parent like what parents like them all. They love all their kids the same. Some can make them angry more than the other, but yeah, we had that growing up, and most of it was good. But man, I tell you, she give us that look. My dad didn't have to do anything. My dad never whooped me. He did 2 times, but he never really whooped us. You know who did it? Your mom.
Your mom.
She took joy in it. And it got, she wore it like a badge of honor.
Wow.
If we got out of line. And he knew. He didn't have to do anything because she was right there. And she give us that look. Are you acting up, Andre? I said, no, Ma. She said, good. You don't want me to get you in front of these people here. And like I said, they'll do that in front of people. It was just a normal thing. But yeah.
So which one were you out of all the 8 kids? Were you the oldest, the youngest, the middle? What were you?
I was like number 10 or something like that. So, yeah.
Wait, hold up. You said, 8 brothers and sisters.
8. I was number
8 each?
Yes.
So like 8
when
boys,
I grew up with 8
girls?
Yes, when I grew up with 8,
Hold
I
up,
was
so that's
5.
16.
No, I have. Originally, we had 14.
You said 8 brothers and 8 sisters. So that's 8 boys and
grew up with
8
8
girls.
Right. So I was number 5. Number 5. But originally it was 14 originally. But when I grew up with 8, it was number 5 because there's 3 that's younger than me and then got the rest older.
Gosh.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, you never combined them together. You just said 8 boys and 8 girls.
Yeah.
But when you really, wow, you should have just started off. I have 16 siblings. That's what you should have said. Because that's crazy.
It's 14.
So out of 16, what was your placement? Were you number 8? You said you were number 5 out of 16?
It's funny. You're saying what number was I?
Yeah.
My mom used to say that too. They used to say
you don't even have a name at that point. It's just what number are you? You're number 5, number 4.
Yeah, they would say to my mom, "What number is he or what number is she?"
Oh,
Isn't that
man.
weird? Because there was so many. I can remember, right?
Wow.
We went to a restaurant. I'll never forget this. And my mom walked in with 8 kids. And one of the workers.
8 or 16?
Yeah, and I'm about 6 years old.
8 or 16?
No, she walked in with 8 because there's originally 14. Some of them died,
Oh, yeah.
but 8.
You can't afford that many.
8 is we grew up together. Now 8 we grew up together, but we walked into a restaurant, right, and the worker looked really scared, like, oh no, all these kids is coming to act up. But you know what happened? He was so impressed, and the manager, I'm about 6 or 7 years old, was so impressed. And he said to my mom and my dad, your kids are so well behaved. Yeah. Because she just gave us that look, and we knew not to act up. The spankings, she did it hard early on to let us know who, don't be acting up.
Yeah.
Yes.
What year was this around?
Oh my gosh, this is very early on. This is like 1970, 71. This is very early on.
Wow.
And yes, way back.
Different time.
Different time.
Way different.
Yeah, I remember my brother Willie.
I almost took that offensively because at that time, for someone to come to you and say, wow, your kids are very behaved.
Yes.
For me, when I was just trying to perceive that, I look at it like, wow, you got your little out of control, horrible, because it was racist times then, very racist, and that could have almost been taken a different way.
Yes.
If you think about it, that could have not have really been a compliment, or it could have,
But James,
depending on who it comes from and how you say it, But when you're there at the moment, was it, did you understand what that was when he said it?
And I remember my older brother James. He said, "Hey, mama, she gonna get you if you do so and so."
Oh, so he was a reinforcer.
Older brother, yeah,
too.
and he would remind me about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know what's so fun? I remember being in the old what is it? They don't have it. You don't see them now. That's really nice. The root beer, A&W root beer, and we sitting across the table like this, just like me and you sitting across. And I can remember it was so much fun drinking that bear. It had a bear on the straw, and we look at each other laughing and playing, and in the A&W root beer restaurant, but you don't see those now. And that's in the A&W root beer. That was fun too.
Wow.
And the formal restaurants, we went through all of them. We used to go to really nice restaurants. Yes, my dad was making a lot of money, $100 an hour. That's like about $300 an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, and he gave it to my mom, and you know what he say? Your mama, she's a big spender, and she was. Yes.
Probably and all those cookouts.
And I looked her natal chart up, the round one. It says spin, spin, spin. Oh my gosh. And she would spin. I remember my dad, he gave her a check, right? A lot of money. He said, here, Andre, get this to your mama. She'll spend it up in one day. Yeah, one day. But she would do it for his kids. It was all for his kids. Yeah, we had the biggest, like I said about Christmas. She overdo it, but it's for us. Presents, Christmas tree, almost touched the roof. And cousins, remember I told you about the biggest family? They come piling up in those doors. And I remember having my little cowboy suit. Oh yeah, it was fun times. And I'm around with the gun, bang bang, Yeah. And the G.I. Joe was very in. And all my cousins would pile up at the house. All the cakes and the apple pies, the big turkeys, jambalaya, very Southern because my parents are very Southern. People from the South, when they hear me talk, they can hear that California and that Southern in me. And they say, both of your parents from the South, well, that makes you Southern too. Got both of the uniqueness in me. Everybody has their own uniqueness, and that's my kind of uniqueness.
Yeah.
Both cultures.
Yeah, it's weird how, you can be from somewhere else and then you move to a new place. Mm-hmm. How that still stands out.
Yes.
It's interesting.
And like I was saying, my dad had 22 brothers and sisters, right?
Wow.
I would have so many aunts and uncles would come over and would stay in that 8-bedroom house. My grandpa built a 8-bedroom house. He was a builder. 8-bedroom house with a like 3 dining rooms or something like that. So it was a nice house.
3 dining
Yeah,
rooms.
yep.
Wow.
And it could have been even nicer.
Oh my! How dare you?
Yeah. Oh,
But you're a
Grandpa,
builder too.
Grandpa,
I can't speak on that like you can.
Grandpa can whip it
It
out.
could have been better.
Yeah, it could have been even better.
I mean, was that your outlook then too, or is that your outlook now?
Oh,
Like,
I love that house.
but then you weren't thinking, oh, it could have been better. But
Even better.
is that your outlook now? Thinking about
Yes.
it, like, oh,
See,
it could have been better.
Yeah, yes.
So it's a
because
now.
the
Okay.
pipes. Oh my gosh, he didn't take the time on those pipes.
Oh,
But the house was a nice house, big, and it was nice.
Mm-hmm.
The yard, and not only that is it had acres in the backyard before all those homes were built. He had all this farmland out there. He would have corn, apple trees, grapes, just like you see on television, all that agriculture stuff. He had that in the back.
man.
Had a nice barn out there with all the tools up top, and he was very gifted in planting. And I remember he's telling me about his first job. It was in 1911, his first job, doing all that stuff. So you know the skills that he had. He touched anything, and it just seemed to grow.
Wow.
Yes, and so yeah, it's really something. And I remember we sat under the apple tree, listened to the baseball game, and then under a big apple tree, mountain apple tree.
That sounds like a movie scene.
It was like a movie scene when you go back in time,
Under the
if you
apple
could
tree,
remember
we
it.
listened on the radio to
Yeah,
the
and
baseball game.
he built this huge brick fireplace, really large. It's like the size of this room. It's big.
Whoa.
It was big. I remember my sister Pamela would talk about that, how his sisters and brothers would come there from the South, and they'd be all out there talking at French because he's Creole. They talk that both languages and stare into that fireplace. And I remember we'd be out there too, just staring into that big, huge fireplace. It was a beautiful thing, and yeah, and to be in the backyard, just to have all the apples, fruits, and I did not want to leave my grandparents' house. I always wanted to stay there.
Wow.
And do the agriculture stuff, which was nice.
I could tell, like, you talking about it,
I'm literally going back in
you're
time.
seeing it right now.
Oh yes.
So what does it feel like being at Grandpa now, since
It's nice.
I gave you grandkids?
Yeah,
So what does it feel like now that you're in that position?
Oh, it's good. Thanks to you, it's good because it takes me back. When I was a kid, it takes me back. It's a good feeling.
Wow.
Yes. I say sometimes you love your grandparents even more. I was even more closer to my grandfather because I would stay the whole summer.
Oh, the whole summer.
I would stay the whole summer.
Dang, they just said, here's
Oh.
your grandparents.
Oh.
Drop you off with a bag.
Yes.
Ooh,
Very
man.
little. I was very little staying from the whole summer.
I wish I
and
could do
own
that.
up-
Maybe I need to do that with you
Yes.
guys. Just give you my kids for a whole summer.
Yeah, 69. I was very little then, and
Okay.
we would and on up to all the way
You
up to
said
a
it
teenager.
here. You said it here.
Yes.
I could drop my kids off to your place for the summer. You said it
a
here.
whole summer.
He said it here, guys. He said it here.
Well,
I caught you.
my grandpa was so old then and retired. He had long been retired.
Kids
And-
are choking on
dang.
stuff, and he don't even. He's just listening to the baseball game.
Oh no, he didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't even work. Yeah, he'd been long retired. So yeah, he dropped these.
How old was what would you guess his age at the time?
80s.
He's in his 80s.
Yes,
And
80s.
and how old were you?
Oh, I was like,
Was it just you or
I
a few
was
of
like-
your other brothers and sisters?
I was like 10, 8,
wow,
all like that.
So that was your great grandpa.
I started even younger than that, up to a teenager.
your great grandpa.
No, my grandpa.
Your grandpa.
My grandfather. Yes.
I wish I could have met my grandparents. I think that would have been pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But things worked the way they did. But I'm glad you're around for my kids to have grandparents.
Yes.
So I think that's pretty cool because I know for me having kids, because I was a little younger than you having kids. And
Yes.
so like finding out at an earlier age, I'm seeing why it's good to have kids earlier, because you still have your family around. And then on top of that, not like you're older or anything, but like it's good because you want your kids to have that sort of experience, to know that, these people in my life are these people. I have grandparents, I have parents, and I think it's a good thing. And also on top of that, for the parents who are younger, sometimes in the case you don't have as much support as you need, because when you're younger, you need that, and so like having kids younger, like, you guys watch the kids on certain days, which helps us out because, work, how work and our schedule is. And so it helps out big time, like if you guys weren't around, it's like, for those days, what will we do? Who do we have? We don't know who could be watching the kids, something bad could happen and stuff like that. It's a huge worry for the parents, and, we got to stress out over that. But, that was also part of the decision why me and Michaela had kids at an early age, because it's like, hey, look, we got grandparents around. We got some great grandparents around. Let's hurry up and get, you know what I mean? Let's do this now, because look, we're going to be with each other. We didn't question that part. We already been with each other, and it was like through thick and thin. You know what I mean? We've been through our highs and lows. You already know some of the stuff we've been through. And, that just, and we wanted kids ultimately, and it worked out. So,
And there's benefits in old and young. If you
Yeah.
have them older, there's
Yeah.
a benefit, and younger, there's a benefit.
you said it makes you feel like a kid again almost.
Oh yeah.
And I think when you get older, you need to have that, because you forget what that's like.
Oh no,
as you
I
move
never
forward.
forget.
Yeah.
I had such a good childhood growing up. I don't, and you have your bad parts too.
Well, of course.
But
you need it too. You can't.
oh yeah,
just,
you have to have that experience both.
Yeah. You don't want to just grow old and not know what it's like to, be around little kids and you know what I mean? Like you're just like I understand exactly, because I feel like I'm aging, because I am, physically and mentally.
Everyone
I'm not
ages.
Yeah, like mentally, like if I had to think about 5 years ago, I could tell you that my mind state was way different than it is now.
Oh my
And
gosh, very
and,
different.
And I mean by miles. And it's, even though I wasn't in a bad place 5 years ago or nothing, I was still figuring it out, and I still am, but that part never changes. But from 5 years to up until now, there's been big changes in my life, and of course adding kids along, and still doing what I want to do on the side. That really, it helps me find out who I am in the process. And I find you thirsty, man. You thirsty. But yeah, no, it like, having kids help you find out what your motives are. And it makes you either want to do things more or not. And and you like, I could tell. I remember like growing up, and you're like working on the ballroom and stuff in the tree house. I remember seeing how determined you were, and sometimes you would even have us help out, like pass me this, pass me that. And so it made us like want to help out a little bit, because like we would run to that to go get it. And sometimes it was the wrong thing, but it was like, oh, he wants us to help. He wants us to help because you were so focused on something, and you're building something. We knew you were building something, and it was cool to see that.
And Andrew helped out more when he was little.
Yeah.
He was the one that
older,
really.
and he was smarter.
Yeah. He's the one that really helped out.
Yeah,
You see the picture of him with the wheelbarrow.
He saw what was really going on more clearly than
pictures.
we were. Yeah. And like I see, like as I was like making this studio and this whole podcast thing, my kids want to be in here all the time, and they want to just help out and do stuff and destroy at the same time. But
like I was when I was a kid.
Yeah, we all destroy when we're kids. It's just as fun as building things.
It's a natural thing.
You want to destroy as much as you want to build,
Yeah.
And then you learn. But, I got to see exactly how that works. And like having kids makes me realize how I was, because when I go back in my memories, you see things the way that I see now. And I think it's quite interesting, because it's like, you don't know until you have that same experience. And like a lot of things, like for a lot of people who don't know, me and you both have the same cut on our eye. Like we both split
Is
our eye
that
open,
right there?
which is weird. Same side and everything. And on top of that, we both had our appendixes removed. I don't know if he passed it down to me or not, but I don't know if it's a thing you can pass down. But you've had your experience, and I've had mine, and it's one of the same. So it's almost like we've gone through the same things. And of course, kids. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of
And-
things. I'm like, oh, my dad went through the same thing. You know, so it's like I feel just that much more connected. You know,
Not only that is you're a Sagittarius sun sign. My rising is a Sagittarius. So,
Yeah.
you know, and your brother is a Sagittarius rising.
yeah. And then mom's a Sagittarius too.
Sun sign. You
which is
see,
weird.
you see the link.
Yeah, but Andrea got your left-handed.
Yep,
in
she's
this.
she's a light path 6 like me, and she's a Capricorn.
Yeah.
Venus like I am, and a Mars Pisces like I am. So you see, we all had these little things, and me and mom blows everything out the water.
Yeah.
Ours to get our natal chart, you know.
Yeah, those natal charts are pretty interesting. So let's talk a little bit about your surroundings. So what exactly would you say that has shaped you to where you're at and how you got here? Like, what has pushed you along this path, and what are some things that you think knocked you onto this course of life?
Oh wow, that's a good one.
It's a broad question too, so you have to talk. You know, it's about what's really personal to you. Some things you may or may not want to talk about.
I can tell you that real easy.
You know, like if someone passed away, or if someone
all
hurt
my experiences.
You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about all these things, because pain is one thing, you know, just as much as pleasure, you know, and things that have happened on accident, and some things that were outside of your control. I think those are important to discuss, because what those things are for us are more than just experiences. You know, it actually changes us and who we are as we move forward. So what are some things that have happened in your life that changed you? Like at some point you're one way, and then something has happened and it just knocks you onto a complete different course. Now life has changed for you, and now life is a certain type of way rather than what it was. So what are some of those things that happened to you?
Getting married, that changes. You know, like you got married, and that's a big change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And my sister and brother died of cocaine. They over the drug. That changed me, because you know that was my favorite brother. He had his ways, but you know he really broke down and wanted to change. And when he got off of it, it was too late. That cocaine had already got his messed his body up. I remember talking to the doctor, and he showed some medicine to give him to his wife, not to me, but to his wife. And he says, "Give this to him, and it should help." But the drug is, you know, messed his body parts up, because he really was in it for a long time. But he was up and down. That changed me, seeing him up and down. And my sister, Lula May. Remember I was telling you earlier, you know, that some of them died. And, you know, originally had this big family. I have 8 living now, but it was a lot more than that. But yeah, so yeah, that changed a lot. The death of them too, and then marriage. Also, my grandparents and the experiences, all the other experiences. It's never one thing. It's a little bit of everything. But those are some of the big highs right there.
What are some things about that? I'm just curious.
Oh, the sad feeling you get when you were close with your brother and sister growing up and see that happen, and within a few years apart. So yeah, a little more than a few years apart, but that changes you, you know.
Mm-hmm. And seeing your brother go through that.
Yeah, you think about all the times when you guys was coming up, you know, because he's still be young now, running around. He'd be in his 60s, and he's still be saying, "I still look good." Hey, little bro, I still look good. Your big brother still look good, don't he? Oh yeah,
you can imagine it.
Yeah. And so we got along good, but yeah, he had a vicious side. What I've seen with other people, you know, and I was always the one that can calm him down. I was always that one, and he always say, "You lucky my brother wasn't here." And my sister, we had a good relationship, very good relationship as well. It was my two favorite. Yeah.
So what did that do to you specifically when they passed away? Your sister and your
Well, it
brother.
made me to stay straight, which I
With
never.
what?
Well, it's a. I never got on anything, but it made me.
Saved you away from drugs, and
Oh yeah. Well,
what did it
I
do
never
for
got
you?
on even when I was little. Well, he tried to get me on it.
So your path to who you are now
Oh yeah.
at the moment when they passed away,
But before that, because he's the one tried to get me on it when I was just
okay,
10 and
10 years old.
yeah, I was 10 years old and he tried to get me on it, but I says, "Nah, good for you, James, not me," you know.
Yeah.
So, So yeah, but we grew up together and I never did it and I would see him get on it.
Yeah.
He started young himself getting it, but I didn't. And Lula
Yeah.
May, she started young too. So those were the two biggest changes
So what did
right
that
there.
what did that do for you? Like seeing your brother and your sister go through it and then eventually losing them over it.
Yes.
What did that do to you afterwards? To your mental
Oh,
state?
it's a sick, sad feeling because they was up and down. Their life was chaotic, up and down. 1 minute is going good, and then when they started, they were up and down, always in some kind of trouble and this and that. Before that, though, I mean, they were living good. They were like kings on a throne. I mean, everybody wanted to be around them. Well, James now and Lula both, people wanted to be around them still. They wasn't affected in that kind of way, but they were affected in other ways. James, he had that violent temperament. Like I said, we never got into it. He never lashed out on me, but I would see it with other people. And like I said earlier, he would say, "You're lucky my brother was here." I've seen him jump on his girlfriends doing that stuff, and I have to get in the way.
Wow.
So, yes, it was bad. I've seen him kick him down. Yes. Yes. So, and when he was sorry, all what he did and changed, it was too late by that time. And my mom said to him, "You're going to die young."
How'd your mom take it with both of them?
Oh, gosh. She went crazy. She lost her first kid in 1960. And I remember she would be sitting down and she would scream out her name. And I'm like, her name was Hope. And she would scream her name out and she'd start trembling and crying because she never forgot about that. So many years later, that's 1960, beginning of the 60s. And now here it is, years later, in the early 90s, it happens again. And see, my brother got on and started doing drugs in the early 70s. But see, in the early 90s, it really caught up to him. It was already catching up to him because that's why his life was up and down. And that's why in the 70s, he was up and down, and my sister was up and down. They were up and down with the chaotic life. It was because of that. And, but yeah, it caught up to him in the early 90s. Yes. Heart, eyes, all that stuff started giving out. So yeah, and my mom, when my sister passed, it just all went away from her now. You can just see she was just walking around basically dead. It was like the walking dead in front of you. And I remember I dived. When my sister passed and she was sitting there in a chair, I had already had a vision that something was going to happen, and I seen it. It's like a movie, a screen right there in front of you. And everybody else is just walking around like nothing to it, right? And it was a lot of people that day, crowds. And I dived right over there, and I cried in her arms. I tell her, "Mom, don't die. Please don't die." She started shaking, went into a convulsion, and she hollered my sister's name out. It was the saddest way. You couldn't make a movie out of it that sad. It's the way she looked up and started trembling and crying, and she hollered her name. And that's when I dived into her and held her in her arms, and I cried with her. I says, "Please don't cry." If I didn't do that, I know what would have happened. She would have been dead right there because I had already psychically picked up on it. I seen a real movie, just like a movie right here. And remember, Like I told things like that to your mom, right? And my natal chart says you can see visions psychically because you have that part in that chart. And I had seen all that. I've seen it 4 times with my mom. But she looked up and she stopped right away. She snapped right back into place and said, son, I'm not going to die. And I'm a grown man. And I'm not a crier or anything. I'm calm. I don't cry much or anything. I'm usually balanced, but right there, you can't be balanced. You have to show your mother your love. Show her that you're there for her. And that what kept her alive right there when she went to trembling and all those tears. And it was the saddest movie right there. You can see it right there. She's dying in front of you. And I had to hold her tight in her nap, just like that, in her lap, begging her, please don't die. And she snapped through. Yeah. And I'm like, she's still here. And she looked down, she says, baby, your mother's not going to die. So, yeah. And everyone looked. It's like, how did he know what was going to happen? Because I just seen the movie in front of me. And then that's when, and it says on my chart, when you see that, you get to it because it's in that natal chart. But that was the biggest change right there. Right there is when Lula passed. Yeah. Never forgot about it. And not only that, if you ask any of my brothers and sisters, they'll probably tell you the same thing too. That right there, because they talk about, when we get together, it's a lot of us, and we talk about Lula and James, remember this and that, Lula and James, and we don't even want to talk about the bad things they did. We just mainly talk about the good things because that's what we naturally want to remember. And because there was a lot of good about them. And I remember how talented Lula was, Lula May, and I remember how talented James were. And he can walk into a room and make everybody feel like it's going to be all right. And if something happened in the family, now here's the thing. We were in a car accident when I was a kid, and he was the first one there. And I'm like, how did you know? He just knew. He said he was the one that called the police when we were in that car accident. It was a serious car accident. He was the one that called the police. Yes. And even when I had my appendix, like you had your appendix taken out, my appendix was taken out. And I passed out. Like you passed out, I passed out. You see the similarity? And I remember as he was willing me, the doctors, and I couldn't remember nothing else. The only thing I remember is being on the stretcher. And he said, it's going to be all right, baby bro. It's going to be all right, little bro. And then I passed out again. Yeah. And he told him, you take care of my brother, you hear? That's how he was. And that's all I remember. Yes. And my mom, she said to me after it was all over, she said, hey, you remember James was there? I says, yeah, I got a faint remembrance. I said, well, he was. She said, how is it that he always know? He's always the first one that if something happened, he's there for the family. It was like, it always blew us away. He had his bad part, but then that good part, it's like overshadowed it. Yeah. And my sister, she's very similar, but in a different way.
Wow. What type of ways was she different in?
He was
Or he? It was
he was in a masculine, macho way, that masculine, macho way.
Yeah.
And he had a voice that would shake the room, and the bass is so heavy.
Sounds like a big guy.
Yeah. I have a heavy voice, but his is even heavier. And his son, too. And his son is, yeah. But, and then my sister, she's very feminine, and sweet, like, in that type of way. She had her rough way where she'd tease you, you know how brothers and sisters, they get in an argument. But most of it, though, she was mostly loving. And, yeah, and she was there for the family as well. I remember she would tell Mom. And I remember her and Mom got into it in the early 70s. And because her boyfriend, my sister had a boyfriend, and she's like, I don't want you to go out with that boy. He's not good for you. And she said, my man, And I remember as a kid seeing that. They said my man back then. And they got into it. It was physical. I don't want to say all what happened, but it was physical. And she cried in my mom's arms and said, I'm so sorry, after that, My mom straightened her out. But yeah, my mom was a little hard, but hey, my sister said, I love you, Mom, and, stuff like that. Yeah. But she was that type of person. She was very loving in that type of way. Yeah. And like, I remember when I was, if I get into it with somebody at school, she's like, leave my little brother alone. Because I'm little. She's headed for high school already, But, yeah, she said, leave my little brother alone. She would say that. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was like that. You can't mess with me. She can mess with me, but other people can't. And it was like that with James. He can mess with me, but other people can't. It's really something. And like your mom, she once said about, it's really weird. She hears those stories about my brother because she met him. He was still alive when we met. And the thing about it is he come from Louisiana and he had about 2 years to live. So your mom got to know him. But she said, he doesn't seem like the one that you guys used to talk about until she seen it. She seen it a few times, not once, but a few times, because he has that mildness. She's seen him get in it with somebody, several people. And yes, he still had that temper, but he's very loving at the same time. He has a dominating presence. But yeah, he's a very loving guy. And like I say, he's always there for the family. But she said it's hard to believe he can go as good as bad.
Yeah.
But more good,
That's a lot of people nowadays, a lot of people have their good parts and bad parts.
Yeah, we all do.
We really do, and I'm just curious, what are some good parts and bad parts about yourself? We're talking about everyone else, but
okay.
Let's talk about you.
My good parts is I'm balanced. And then when I'm off balance, I can get upset quick. You've seen it. You've seen it.
Yeah.
And
well, it's good to talk about it,
Yeah. And and then the good parts is I don't. And I could take a joke. I could take a joke real well. You know how you joke around. I take a joke. But then there's other times I don't. Sometimes I don't listen like I should. You know that, right? Like even your mom, Andre, you're not listening. Your mind's somewhere else, Yeah, I'm like, yeah. But I have to train myself to do that, I naturally listen, but then there's times where I don't, I'm thinking about other stuff on my mind, so.
Yeah. Well, and, I think it's good to acknowledge that because how can we move forward if we don't know these things, And I feel like life is so fast, and before you know it, it'll teach you a lesson before you had a chance to even acknowledge what some things you could have fixed or adjusted, and I realized that, like for myself, I have a lot of things that I don't like about myself, but like of course you want the good to at least outshine, the bad parts, because you want to move forward at some point, but you do want to work on those things. You don't neglect the things that you could work on better.
And your mom helped me out with that too.
Yeah.
Like, calm down.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I hear you.
I may be nice 90% of the time, but that's that other part.
Yeah.
That then your mother, calm down.
Yeah. What would you want people to think of you as? What do you want to leave behind? A mirror or something? Something special, some piece of architect, because the house that you made.
Oh yeah, something like that. But yeah.
What do you want us to think about you as when we think of Andre?
The way you remembered me, but make sure it's more good, of course. And that's about it. Architecture, definitely that. And me and your mother's relationship. Yeah. We've been together 30 years. It's a long time. And it says in our natal chart, long marriage, unbreakable bond. It says, all that. It talks about we know each other real well. It's subconscious. If you believe in past lives, And when they did a reading on us, it says you guys been together um, in multiple lifetimes together. And if you look at your natal chart, it keeps going right back to each other. Like her Jupiter is in the first house. Jupiter in Gemini. I have Jupiter in Gemini. Mine is in the seventh. Hers is in the first. First house is Mars. My house is Venus. Venus and Mars are like they're a married couple, like the sun and moon. And this is real, the stuff that people don't know.
You believe in horoscopes and zodiac signs?
Not the stuff that you read in the newspaper. I'm talking about the real stuff and the highest of the calculations and all the planets. And all this stuff is related to the Bible.
What other things do you believe in? Do you believe in like UFOs?
Oh, yes.
Ooh,
yes.
Okay. You see this month how the White House, the Pentagon, how they're going crazy over this UFO thing. How a lot of these people who are capturing the footage of like, you know, unidentified aircrafts, they're confirming that this stuff is real. Like back in the day, they wouldn't say anything. They would play a low key on that. They wouldn't say much. But it seems like nowadays it's like I'm just waiting for their arrival. You know, like where they just pull up at like a Macy's, like, "What's up, guys? We're here to get some new clothes." You know, but
it's real.
It's real. You know, I know it's real because I seen something one time.
Yes.
You know, and I don't do drugs. I don't do none of that stuff. I was in my perfectly clear conscience. It was not a balloon in the air. It was at nighttime. It had crazy lights. Okay, aircrafts don't have multicolored lights changing, and they don't disappear from this side of the sky to over here, to over there, to over there, over here. You know, so some crazy movement. So like, and that's a lot of the cases where people have had their experiences, you know, where they see something up in the sky, and a lot of those types of stories are documented. So mine's is just one of so many people, but
and whole families being abducted.
Yeah,
abducted.
Well,
from their house.
Yeah, there's
by
stories,
aliens.
Yeah,
and you can look in their eyes. These people are real. They're not making this up. And the whole town saying we saw it.
Yeah,
we're not crazy.
Yeah, you know, there was a story. I think it was in the late 1800s where aircraft, UFO, crashed down, and I believe this happened in Texas. I could be wrong. I watched a documentary on it, and I actually looked it up. It was an actual thing that happened. It was also in the newspaper where this UFO crashed down into this small community, and there was an alien inside, and it had passed away, and they held a small funeral for it, and they made a grave for it and everything. And then the government got a hold of this because it was printed in the newspaper, and the government, they went out to the site. I believe it happened on at like a church or something. I don't know if that was coincidental. I'm not too sure. But shortly after that, the government, they took the body or whatever of the alien, and, you know, they said it was off limits, and that was it. But it was an actual story in the newspaper, and there's people there for its funeral who can confirm it, which I'm sure no longer are living, because it was in the late 1800s.
And that was in Texas.
And I believe it was Texas. Yeah, you probably heard of it.
It happened here in Sacramento in 1896 at our Capitol. Yeah. There's photos of it in the old archives.
Yeah. You know, it's strange how much is either not being confirmed or denied.
And when many people see it, the government make you believe they're crazy when they know what they've seen.
Yeah, and that's when people go missing too.
And that's the good thing, when a lot of people see it in daylight, right out there in broad daylight.
Broad daylight.
And you can't lie to thousands of people, you know.
My big question is, are we aliens ourselves?
That I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I think about that all the time. I wonder, because you know how like technology for us is like, I think 50 or 60 or 80 years ahead of our knowledge inside the government. I forgot the program who works on the weaponry. I think it's I don't want to get it wrong. I probably shouldn't say, but they basically are that many years ahead of our understanding of what technology is today. And so it's possible we might see a UFO and there's an actual human inside there. We don't know these things,
Yes.
so we don't know exactly what humans are really capable of at this time and age. We'll know what we're capable of now 50, 60 years ahead of, and it's crazy to think that way, but we're really behind on what we think we know currently in our understandings.
And the government is the smartest. See, people think they're the smartest. All these individuals, no. And the reason why the government is the smartest, I'm talking about the high government. The reason why they're the smartest is because they make people believe what they want them to think, what they play on TV, what they hear, their history, all of that. See, they know the truth about all that. They know UFOs really do exist. They know the real history of just black people alone, the history of the world. They know all that, but they only give us bits and fragments, and then they kind of like twist it around,
Yeah. When you say black people, I mean, we had a big role in how all of this really came together.
Yes.
It's crazy how much a lot of that gets undermined and non-credited, and not even just that. Like this pain and suffering that we had to go through just to get to where we're at today. Because today is way better than it was back then. I'm sure our ancestors would be very proud of where we're at. And like, oh my, this is what we just wanted. We just wanted to be on the same playing field, even though the playing field
our ancestors
isn't equal. It's still not equal today.
Yeah. If
but
everybody,
it's better than what it was then.
But look at this. All the people back then, thousands of years ago, come back to life today, and they see, because black ruled, they ruled back then. They were on top. Even if you go to even in the Moors, their history, how they went to Europe, and they were black Africans. And they went to Europe, and they taught the Europeans almost everything, whether it's to read, the mathematics, building the first castles, because the first castles is built in Ethiopia 1,000 years before the European castles came. But in the 6th century, 7th century AD, 711 AD, they took that to Europe, the Moors, brought that knowledge over there. See, that was the real dark ages. See, all your history is being held. Everyone, and it makes everyone think this way. But also, the Bible talks about one race, one people, one language. That was blacks. It was only them. But then everybody else started coming in later. So.
Yeah, and it even describes them too, like the bronze hair and stuff.
Yes.
And the dark skin.
Yes.
I think it was bronze skin.
And we all are unique in our own way.
Hair.
Yes. And we're all unique in our own way.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things we can get away with that other races can't get away with. And there's certain things that it's in the reverse.
Yeah.
So where I down, they're high. Where they're high, are down. So yeah, but we just came along first. And a lot of the stuff that you see, first buildings and all that, they come from African people.
Yeah.
But, they ain't going to let you know that.
Yeah, like pyramids in Egypt and all that.
And it describes.
We can even go back further than that.
And Africans did some wicked things that helped brought them down. And now, the ones who are in power now are doing some things, and it's going to bring them down. Yeah. So it's their turn now.
So right now, they're talking about, you've heard of CRISPR, right? It's like gene editing, where they're editing the genes of humans before they're even fully developed. They did that
back in the Moorish times.
And you know what had me thinking? Because they're talking about this now. Okay, they're talking about how we can edit our DNA where we can not have certain symptoms. Like, I guess they did it and they were successful. And I'm pretty sure they're going to try implementing this on the on the race, and
can make them taller too.
Yeah,
make them
shorter,
smarter,
because that's what they really want. They want to make them smarter too, and also, and also adding animal DNA
They've been doing that.
into the human genome, and having that sequence to where we have animal-like abilities in different, like seeing in the nighttime, for example.
But that's not new, though.
Being nocturnal, of course. And you know what makes me think that is because when you go back to ancient Egypt, why do you have these gods with animal heads on their bodies?
There you go.
And that kind of tells you animal, human. There's a connection there, you know.
And they were originally black people.
Interesting,
Yes.
right? And I feel like that stuff goes deeper. And like, why would you make a representation of a human with an animal body, with an animal's head, or you know, because that doesn't make any sense unless there's a mix, because that's what that's representing. It's representing a mixture of human animal.
Could be.
You know,
but I know the Moorish, when you get down to the Moorish times,
Dark Ages.
they were talking about how they would do gene splicing. Already, nothing is new. Everything they think is new. No, nothing's new. It's just changed in certain ways. They just added a little more to it and this and that, but nothing's really new. They've been doing gene splicings. They've been heart operations so many thousands of years ago that so yeah.
I think it's quite interesting because, you know, like even when they open like the sarcophagus, you know, they always find things in there that's interesting. Like I think it was I forgot which Egyptian leader it was, but they found the body, you know, with the woolly like hair, you know, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They found tattoos on the skin.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then they also found a dagger that was forged, okay, out of meteorite that comes from the moon, you know, from a star, you know.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting because our most advanced forger, you know, someone who works with forging metals and different types of materials together, they said there's nothing that represents here at this time how they could have made something like this unless they were more advanced than us in ways that we can't even understand just yet.
Yeah.
And inside that sarcophagus that has never been opened, and I don't remember how many years, you know, they found a perfectly made dagger made out of meteorite, which has everyone like baffled because they don't know how that would have been made unless it traveled from the future to the past, or you know, it doesn't make sense because there's nothing in the past that represents to them of how they could have made it. And so, and the big thing that they're talking about is like, you know, were these aliens? Are they human? But you know, they don't know themselves because these things are, you know. But with the body and stuff like that, it represents Africans and how we're depicted even till this day. It's not like the real human anatomy has changed too much. But what they don't also talk about is the species of humans. Like, for example, with birds, there are over 10,000 species of birds. That tells you a lot. For example, humans. They said that there are 15 to 25 different species of humans. So what do all those other humans look like? They talk about Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, and stuff like that. But where are the other ones we don't know about? You know, the other ones could have been smarter than us. You know, they could have been so smart where they just up and left the earth.
Where are they?
Where are they? That's the thing. And, you know, and they have these imprints of triangles in the moon, so they don't know if it came from the moon, or they figured out a way of like coming there, coming here, or teleporting, going through black holes. They don't know these things, but we can only speculate because the findings are just so interesting, you know, and how pyramids popped up all around the world, and seems like in a formation. It wasn't a random place, you know. Once they look up into the stars, because you know back in the days, how they would map out places and how they would get to places would be because of the directions of the stars. They would look up in the sky, we're going to go north because that's where that star is.
Right.
And that's how they would know how to get home, how to get to where they had to go. And so it's quite interesting because they went off of a celestial, you know, of a thought, you know, it's hard to get in the brain of what they were thinking then, but going up based off the stars, we can get a little bit better understanding. But you know, it's all guesses, you know, so it's hard to even say that.
And that, and you said the black hole. That black hole by Florida
Oh,
and those
those things are
keys over
real.
there.
Those are real.
They're real.
They've been, you know.
You know, Neptune, the planet Neptune. You know, Pisces, zodiac sign Pisces, the ruler Neptune and Saturn. But see, Neptune rules the ocean, and you got Aquarius, which is Uranus, rules the air. And then there's another one over there. I forgot how it goes, but that has a big part of the black hole plan. Is that zodiac wheel, how it all ties in. It's really deep about that. And how people disappeared, you know.
Yeah. You know, I find it interesting. I remember you were telling me our history, you know, and other, you know, Andrea and Andrew, our history. I remember when I started hearing about it, when you started telling us about
Thought I
it.
was crazy.
You know, no, it wasn't even that. It was, you know, because when you go to school, you're taught one thing, and then when you hear from your parents, you hear another. So it's like he said that, and then my dad's saying this. I remember being in class, raising my hand because I think we're talking about the Moors. Mm-hmm. And how in the picture,
you remember that,
yeah,
huh?
in the history books they depicted a whole bunch of white people, and they talked
Yes.
about how they came up with mathematics and all the other stuff.
They're gonna always do that.
Always, you know, the winner of in the wars and stuff, they always, you know, changed the history. You know, that's what it's based off of. The victorious winners usually dictate, you know, the history books.
Yes.
And I remember seeing that in the books, and then you're telling me, and not even just telling me, you're actually showing me all this stuff. And so going into school, I remember debating my teacher on that, and I basically got shut down because it was like, you know, he's the teacher and I'm just the student, you know, and no one else like really paid attention. But for me, that was a big deal because it took a lot for me to raise my hand and tell him, like, hey, look, the Moors are black. Why am I seeing, why are you saying that they came up with all this stuff, but then the ancient, we're talking further back,
Yes.
okay?
And the Europeans, they all know that.
And if we're
They'll
going to
tell you.
talk Moors, let's talk about the first ones.
Exactly.
You know, and he wasn't, I remember at the time, he wasn't going to get into that with me. He either knew or he didn't know, you know, but either way, he shut me down because, you know, I was a kid. And not only just that, you know, it's not like I could just pull it up right then and there, you know.
Even
and
if you were an adult, they'll shoot you down.
they'll try to, you know, and we can have our different beliefs and our different, you know, we could believe what we want to,
Yes.
you know, despite what the real facts were.
And anyone can look it up on the internet.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I think that's what it is. People got to do their own research to find out. Because it's like, you know, you can go from he say, she say, but if you don't do your own research,
if you don't believe
won't know.
me, go research.
Yeah.
Research it.
Yeah.
And not only that is the Europeans, they know that.
Yeah.
Well, why you think they have marches every year? Blackface. They painted jet black. The Moors were jet black. And they were painted, and they were really tall too. A lot of them was over 7 foot tall, looked like basketball players. And every year they paint themselves jet black and march up and down the street. Different parts of Europe, a lot of parts of Europe. And if you go to Europe, you'll notice something. Moors basketball team, Moors coffee shop, Moors restaurant, Moors pen, Moors shoes, Moors ties. And they had the black Moorish guy there. And you go into some of the shops, you see the black Moorish guy as a coffee cup. And you'll wonder if you keen in on the things, you'll wonder what is all this? What's this about? And then you look into the history and you'll find out. And because they ruled Europe, these German people were eating dinner at the table next door. And Marla, you know Marla, she's German. And she said, she was talking about the Moors. She says, my family come from Germany, from Bavaria, very beautiful place. And she said they were talking about how they ruled over there too. The Africans ruled that part of Europe too, back in the 7th century on up to the 15th century, which they say when Columbus came in 1492 and the slave and this and that. But ask yourself this, what was black people doing before 1492, before slavery started?
Good question, yeah.
Yeah, well, they got brought down. The Europeans brought them down. They got weak by that time. And That's what happened. It's all the wars. And then not only that, the Moors started fighting themselves as well. They were help bringing themselves down, and the Europeans was help bringing them down, all that infighting. You know how you see a lot of black people infight now? They're already starting to do it back then and before that. They had some black people put themselves in slavery also. Yeah. But the black African Moors, they ruled almost all of Europe. And if you look it up, you'll see the kings and queens of Europe. France, Britain, it just goes on and on. It never stops.
They won't talk about
But
that.
they won't talk about it. And if you go to Italy, right, they have the historical pieces of the Greek gods, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now, you go down in that basement, you'll see them black. You be like, hey, these people are black.
Yeah.
And they were called Etruscans. Black African people with nappy woolly hair, Etruscans. And there was a 50-foot piece of the real Zeus, which he was black too.
Wow.
But see, people hear you talking like that, they be like, I don't know anything about that. Hey, you're racist. Was you racist when I was told that everyone was white? That was all these people?
Yeah.
No, you just have your history hidden from you. The real history is hidden from everyone, and it makes everyone ignorant.
Mm.
And it makes one think less about the other. You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of great history. And like this one Italian guy, he come from Italy. He says, how come no one knows about the Moors over here when you bring the Moors up? Why no one knows about the Moors? You know.
Brainwashed.
Yes.
Told one whole other side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And look up those marches, too, in Europe. You can go on internet and find that out. And don't take my word for it.
Exactly.
Take their word.
And that goes for everyone listening right now.
They do the
as
reenactments.
Well.
It's by the thousands. It looked like 1 million people in the streets in all these different parts of Europe because those black Africans was their former rulers, and it brought them. They brought them mathematics, science, calculus, trigonometry. It brought them all of that. The castles. You see the castles?
Yeah.
All of that too.
Michaela, my wife, she's really related to Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
They
won't let you know that.
They won't let
they keep that. No, keep
but
that hidden.
see, that's why they were kicked out and disbanded and disowned.
Because they don't want that power to go back to black.
Exactly.
It'll go right back to the black.
The bloodline will get washed out. And you hear about the bloodline.
You start one, and it goes to the other.
Yeah.
You put one black in there. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is our real. And, there's a lot of mixed up ones over there anyway.
If we go to England right now, we claim that we can by blood.
They can't tell you there's black in the family because.
But by blood, we can. Or maybe not my blood, but her blood.
Yeah, they won't do it, though, because you do it by blood. Now,
it changes everything. Now she'll end up missing or something.
Black people will own that. They will be owning all that again. You put one black person in there, and guess what happens? They'll start taking over because it was all ruled by blacks.
Yeah.
Even the priest, Vatican, over there too. They know the history.
Yeah.
They know all the history. A lot of your original priests, were black. They know that.
They know about UFOs too.
Not only that, here's this. Like they'll pray to a white god, right? Mm-hmm. The Pope, he'll pray to a white god, to the world. But he go down in that basement, you see him kneeling down to a black god, black Jesus, Mary, and all that. Because during the Greek time, it was Athena, who was a black god. She was a female. They used to worship her. That's back in the Greek times.
And you've done your research.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yes.
And I recommend everyone else to also do their research. Don't just take it from what we're talking about, and you do your own research.
Yes. And it don't mean black, white, Asians, and one is better than the other one. We all are unique in our own way. Trust me. It's just like your zodiac sign is more unique than the other one in that way, and your other one is more unique in that way. You see? You all kind of like need each other. Everyone's unique in their own little way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's sort of like that. But yes, your first Greeks were called Etruscans, and they were black. And they ruled Greece. But of course, you know who ruled it after that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And they had to get them out.
The history
It was
books.
those Ethiopian Africans was the first ones there and did all that beautiful building. You see, because in Africa, there were tens of thousands of beautiful Venetian architecture, which started in Africa, and you wind up in Europe. You see, because they came from there and they went to Europe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even your classical music, that's my favorite music. My natal chart said that's my favorite music. But yeah, that started in Africa too. But I like the European more sounding better for some reason. Yeah. The classical music, they perfected it more. Has that more a nicer sound, but it's still beautiful in Africa, the classical music. But the Europeans did that a little better though. More perfection. But yeah, but this stuff come from Africa. Most of the stuff that you see come from Africa.
A lot of credit needs to be placed where it's really due, you know. But
well, you wouldn't see all this racism if you let's see, the government is what made people racism.
And they hype that up too because there's money in it and there's an agenda.
Oh, it's money in it, and you get to focus on being racist. The blacks the whites racist to the blacks, the black racist to the whites.
Keep us
focus
divided.
On that.
Keep us separated.
Exactly. Why they keep you focusing on that? They are controlling you. Yeah. They doing other things to you that you're focused on that. Why they making stuff go up when they shouldn't? And they putting other stuff in our minds that we shouldn't.
Yeah, our food, minds,
all that,
everything.
Now, what better way to do it?
Social media.
Make everyone racist towards each other. Why they screw America in their butt. It's like that all over the world.
Right behind our backs, underneath our noses.
That's how they can screw you.
Yeah.
Now, they wouldn't be able to fool us if they didn't do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, look, it was great talking to you. Thank you for coming today. Definitely we'll have to do this again, and we could talk even more about that because I'm pretty sure people find a lot of this interesting. But, hey, look. All right, guys. That's going to be another episode. Thank you again for coming. And we are out. Don't forget to watch this podcast on YouTube, or you can listen to this on Spotify, iHeart, all the stuff.
It was good being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, iTunes. All right, you guys. We're checking out. Peace.
I like this.